Okay, so now I have the pleasure of introducing you to Nausheen Chen. Nausheen Chen is a public speaking coach, and she's got, if you can't tell already by her appearance, she's got a really fun personality and fun vibe. I told her I've never seen anyone pull off purple hair the way she does. And she and her husband launched a few years ago an endeavor called Zen and Zany Stories. So that'll give you just a little bit of a hint of her personality and just who she is a little bit. But Nausheen, I'm going to turn it over to you and feel free to share more about yourself. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christy, Cindy, and Tina. It's been amazing talking to all of you and connecting with you, and so excited to be here from weirdly sunny Toulouse in France. I was not expecting it to be warm today. So this session is on how you can be an unforgettable speaker, regardless of whether you're doing a presentation or a meeting, or if you're speaking at an event. And in terms of giving you a sneak peek at what's in store, in terms of how I love running these sessions, it's going to be highly interactive. So I do want to hear from you. I'm going to be asking you some questions throughout, and I would love for you to participate. Let me know if you're all there. Let me know if I'm not talking into a void. So if that's good with you, I would love to see you guys type deal or yes. So give me a deal or a yes in the chat so that I know that you're there. Thank you. Awesome. Great. Love that. Love the interaction. And starting with who I am and why I'm here, and then I'll go into hopefully a not very boring presentation. Great. Thank you. Who am I? I, believe it or not, come from the corporate world. I was at Procter & Gamble in marketing and PR. Oh, I see myself bigger. I was at Procter & Gamble doing marketing and PR for the longest time, and it wasn't terrible. But while I was there, I fell in love with training and with communication skills. I became one of the youngest communication skills trainers. At one point, I was training people double my age, but I was always doing it on the side. And that's where my love for speaking began. But I always treated it as something I would do for fun. So I've been speaking on stages, at events, everything from your neighborhood coffee shop to the TEDx stage, where I've been 3 times. For 17 years, I am older than I look. And only recently have I started doing public speaking coaching full-time. So that's what I do now after being a corporate marketer and an entrepreneur, a filmmaker to public speaking coach. And that's what kind of gives me hopefully a bit of street cred to be talking to you guys today, to be talking to all of you lovely folks today. And with that, I can share my screen so that you see a non-boring presentation, which will take you through some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about. I am not a PowerPoint person. I personally really dislike it. You can tell me in the chat if you also dislike it. We can dislike it together. But sometimes when you're talking about frameworks and tools, it's easier. So being an impactful speaker, making sure that people remember you long after they've closed that Zoom window, is about confidence. That seems to be something that people agree on. So would you say personally that you're more confident in one-on-one conversations, or are you more confident speaking to a group? So give me one-on-one in the chat or group, whichever one you're more comfortable with. I'll just drag this here so I see. Okay. Cool. A lot of one-on-ones, but some groups either. Okay. Venus knows what's up. So I'm not surprised to see a lot of you saying one-on-one, because what happens is sometimes for some of the people, when you talk in a group setting, you do feel a little less comfortable. Not if you're Dimitar, apparently, but other than that, you do feel under stress when you're in the spotlight. And this is a great quote that I feel really sums up the situation, where people naturally know how to communicate, especially when they're relaxed and when they're comfortable. They feel like they're in their element. But when you're under stress, and this can be true even if you're in a one-on-one conversation, which is very stressful, that's when you forget what you already know. You forget that you know how to be a good communicator, but you're not being intentional about it. So today, it's all about being intentional. Before that, I want to do a quick demo for you, and I want you to tell me, what are the signs that you see of someone who's not confident when they speak? Okay, so I'm going to do a demo for you, and you're going to tell me in the chat what you see that contributes to a lack of confidence. So this is the demo, and the way that I wanted to talk to you about this was that I'm not really very into it, but I am into it, actually. This is something that is really, really my passion, and that I really want to know what like it's about, but like I also want to know, or I want to tell you, actually, I don't really want to know, but I really want to tell you, like, what is this all about? But at the same time, I like also ramble, and I am also doing a lot of other things that are probably not very effective. Every time I do that, that's painful. Okay, quiet, no eye contact, like vocal tone, body language. Yeah, you picked up on that. Cool. No energy, rambling, low tonation. Cool. Over explaining. I. Yeah, cool. Almost apologetic. Yeah. Have you guys seen speakers like that? Have you guys seen, or you folks, have you as a group seen people who are, they might not even realize that they are showing a lack of confidence. And worse, they are usually people who are experts in their field. They actually know what they're talking about, but the way that they deliver their message is not impactful. And it's not just about low energy. It's not just about mumbling. It's not just about being closed. You can also be speaking like this, and you could be very, very into high energy and kind of almost even frazzled, and still be like really, really fast and not being very intentional about things and not being very interesting or very, very articulate. You can have many different ways of showing a lack of confidence. With some, it comes out as low energy. And with some, it comes out as super high, uncontrolled energy and talking at 500 words per second. So you guys got all the signs of low confidence: filler words, expressions, eye contact, repetition, nervous energy, yeah, lack of body language, being monotonous. So I'm going to ask you this. If we were to check off all of these things, if there's a speaker who doesn't have filler words, who has great expressions and eye contact, doesn't repeat themselves, has great body language, great energy, would you say that they have great confidence? Yes, no, maybe. So if we're ticking off every single thing on the list, okay, Bill is being diplomatic. Okay, if there are yeses, there's a not sure from Mary, maybe from another Bill. Hope you don't mind me calling you another Bill. Yeah, you guys are on the right track. You can check off a lot of the things on the list, but you may not be confident on the inside. So Anne is right. You could be showing up as being confident, but does that confidence really matter if you don't feel confident on the inside? If you have imposter syndrome? or if you feel like you're doubting everything you're saying, if you feel like you're putting on a show. So that's where I encourage you to go deeper. And my specific approach to speaking with confidence is to work inside out, to understand what is it that might be holding you back from being fully present, impactful, articulate, sure of yourself, and to give you the tools, to give you some actionable tools that are performative in nature. And it's because of them being performative in nature that I put number one as number one. But of course, I'm not going to teach you inner confidence in the next 23 minutes. It's not possible. That is something that I did want to bring up and I wanted you to think about as we go into the actionable part of the presentation. So I don't want you to think that I'm just asking you to sit a certain way or speak a certain way without focusing on that inner confidence, which is crucial. And this is what it's all about. Creating an intentional positive feedback loop. Every single time you have a stressful meeting, presentation, a talk, it could even be your first confrontational meeting. It could be the first time you've had to lay someone off and you feel terrible about it. Every time you do that, there are tools that you can use to prepare yourself before. There are things you can do during a meeting or a presentation to be impactful. And then there are things you can do after. And when you create that positive feedback loop that goes from what you did after a presentation or a meeting that was stressful and taking it as proof and creating positive self-talk for yourself before the next time, that's where true confidence really comes from. And that's what I've seen in action over and over again. So that was to give you a bit of a clue as to how to approach that inner confidence piece. And if you've ever felt nerves going into a presentation, if you've ever felt that you cannot control the pace at which your heart is beating, then know this, that your body has the same reaction to fear and excitement. Your heartbeat accelerates, you feel butterflies in your tummy, you feel anxious, you start obsessing. Same reaction. So it's up to your brain to label that emotion as either fear or excitement, anxiety or anticipation. And that is a key mindset shift that really, really works. So I'm going to go into the next part, which is the actionable fun part. And if you have questions on the confidence piece, I'm happy to talk about them in the Q&A. So my question to you, what do you do before a big presentation or a big meeting? A place where you have to really perform or you have to make sure that you're being super impactful. Okay, build practices, awesome. Anything else? What about right before? Deep breathing, yeah. Focus, make sure you understand the content. Cool. Meditation, a lot of meditation fans. Quiet moment of reflection, great. So right before a presentation, you guys are absolutely on the right track. Right before the presentation, something that I recommend all of you to look into, if you're not doing it already, probably not a shot of vodka, but looking into pre-gaming, which means creating a little routine for yourself right before you need to present, you need to be present, you need to give a talk. First, take some time for yourself. And this can be a quick but solid 5 minutes because your schedule is crazy and you can't meditate for half an hour. So if you take a solid 5 minutes before you go into the presentation, practice slowing down, stop checking your email, stop looking at notifications, get yourself to a state which is calm, and then turn your energy up. So this is a two-part process intentionally, because if you're already feeling nervous and if you go straight into turning the energy up, then you might feel even more frazzled. You won't know what to do with all the adrenaline. On the other hand, if you're already feeling low and you just calm yourself down, let's say that you've just been checking your email the entire morning. You calm yourself down, you're going to have low energy in the meeting. So it's got to be this two-part process that I recommend. And I would love for you, those of you who are meditation fans, for example, to try the second part out and then tell me if that works. So first part, calming down, focusing, and then second part, energizing, warming up, listening to a favorite song, maybe getting a drink. I would not recommend coffee because it dries out your throat and your vocal cords, but my go-to is really boring warm water. You can get a smoothie, you can get a juice. Everything has pros and cons, but grabbing something to drink and hydrate is always great. So with that, we get to something else that's exciting. I would love a volunteer who can work with me to do a short warm-up routine that I wanted to show you. So is there anyone who would be brave enough this Friday morning to volunteer?
I'll raise my hand, Louisa. Sorry, I kind of chimed in verbally here.
Sure. Can we have you on the screen? Tina, is there a way to get Louisa on the screen as well instead of just me? Oh, thank you. That was awesome. Great. Thanks for volunteering, Louisa. So what I want to do is go into a very simple warm-up routine with you, which anyone can do before they need to speak or they need to present. So the warm-up routine is broken up into 3 parts. We have physical warm-ups, we have vocal warm-ups, and expression warm-ups. So we're going to do all 3 together. Yeah, cool. So for physical warm-ups, these are very similar to the kind of warm-up exercises that you might do when you're about to work out, when you're at the gym. So we start with really simply just shaking out our arms. So yeah, so just shake it out. And yeah, I see people joining in. Awesome. So we're shaking out the stress, shaking out the anxiety, just freeing it up. And the same with your legs. You don't have to get up now. You can just do the left leg and then the right leg. Before you speak or before you present, I would recommend that you get up and do this as you stand. And then we start with rolling the shoulders. So just want you to do a full 360 roll, and you can do this slowly so that you feel the shoulders going all the way around in the shoulder sockets. And then you can reverse the motion. So if you started anti-clockwise, go clockwise, or the other way around, and just do a few rolls. Great. Now the same thing with the head. So let's do some head rolls. You can also do this slowly. And I would like you to trace a full circle with your head 4 or 5 times. Ignore the neck creaks. That's going to happen. So a few times in one direction and then a few times in the other direction. Might have an AirPod pop out. Okay. Awesome. So that's for getting you a little bit looser, a little bit more relaxed. And after this, I would recommend doing some jumping jacks or dancing. I'm not going to ask you to do that now, but that could be a very natural part of the warm-up routine to really get that blood flow going. Okay, how are you feeling? Are you feeling a little more relaxed, a little more loose? Yeah. Okay, cool. So we're going to get to vocal warm-ups. These are warm-ups that you can actually do every day. You don't necessarily need to have a presentation to do them. They're just really good for your voice and your vocal cords. So we'll start with an sound that I would like you to hold for a while. And if you like it, and if your hands are clean, you can put 2 fingers on your lips so that you feel them buzzing and you know that we're doing it right. So you can start with the fingers on your lips, and we're going to hold an sound for a little while. So yeah, you good? I actually can't hear you. I don't know if others can hear you, but
I amped up my volume a little bit, but yes, this is,
oh, great.
I was doing
Thanks.
it. This is
I
very
believe you.
much like what we do in yoga as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard that. Cool.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to do that a few times as part of the vocal warm-ups. And then we do a second part of the vocal warm-ups where we start the same way, but we open up the mouth into different vowel sounds. So for example, you start with yeah.
This is different.
Awesome.
Yeah. Voices are
Then,
difficult.
oh,
I
yeah.
need that practice.
We'll talk about the voice a little bit later as well. And then let's do an E. So awesome. And then when you're doing these warm-ups before a presentation, you can go through all the 5 vowels, do it a few times if you like. Do you already feel like your vocal cords are a little bit more relaxed if you speak
I
now?
think so. What goes through my mind though, Nausheen, is I would want to crawl into an empty closet or something to do this. Would you, I mean, do you advocate doing this in the meeting room when people are already filing in? Because most of us will be embarrassed to do this.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Your warm-up routine is you time. It's absolutely the 5 minutes before you need to step into a room or go into Zoom. So, or go on stage. I have exactly the same routine for people that need to be on stage. Go find a bathroom or go find a backstage area where you're just by yourself. I even advise people to stop networking 5 minutes before they need to go on stage. Don't go from just talking to someone and then immediately walking on stage, because it's hard to make that switch. So it's as much of a mental shift getting into your own zone as it is physical and going through these exercises. So great question. Thanks. And the last question, the last exercise that we have is expression warm-ups, which are very relevant to speaking. Singers won't do this. Singers will do vocal warm-ups, for example. Expression warm-ups are warm-ups that you will do to get yourself to be in a more expressive state. We're going to be taking a single sentence and saying it in different moods and styles so that we are priming our brain to be more expressive, to tap into our acting muscles, our acting knowledge. So a sentence, it could be any sentence that can be said in different ways. So let's say the sentence is, today's the first day of fall. And first, I'd like you to say it in a neutral tone. What would that be like?
Today is the first day of fall.
Right. And now you're really angry that fall is here. There was someone in the room who I resonated with who said, no, I want summer all year round. So how are you angry about this?
Today is the first day of fall.
Nice. Nice. And now you are saying it in a way that shows that you're very excited about it. You're looking forward to it.
Today is the first day of fall.
Nice. Great. And now you're explaining it to a 2-year-old.
Okay, there I have no experience. Today is the first day of fall.
Great. Great. The idea is just to tap into different kinds of expressiveness that you can have. And it's to show you that you can be more expressive if you choose. So it's all about intentionality and choosing. So thank you so much for being a volunteer. That was awesome. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. I have the world's worst poker face, but it actually helps with expressing in different ways. So I turned that into a positive.
You did. That was awesome. Thank you. Okay, I will go back to the presentation and we're going to go into what I like calling the magic trifecta. So now you're all warmed up. You're ready to go into your presentation or into your talk or into your meeting. What do you actually do during the meeting to be effective and impactful? You use the voice, energy, body language framework. And I can promise you this, if you look up a TEDx talk or if you watch that speaker that you always thought was really impressive, I guarantee they are using their voice, their energy, and their body language to make an impact. So we're going to unpack this. I'm going to demystify this for you. First, with the most important, but also the most difficult one to master. So that's the bad news. But the good news is energy and body language are relatively easier. With your voice, there are a few things that are going against us. The first one is that we have trained ourselves to be monotonous because we are not intentional about the way that we speak. So when you start working on your voice, the first thing that I would like you to do is think about what is it that you want to work on, not just have a better voice, but work on the 3 Ps, your pitch, your pronunciation or enunciation, and your pacing. Do all of you have a clear understanding of the difference between pronunciation and enunciation? How would you describe that difference between pronouncing something or enunciating it?
I forgot what the difference was a little bit, to be honest.
Okay. Mary says the way you say things versus articulating.
Yeah. Maybe it's clear versus how you're pronouncing something is going to be like you say tomato, like sort of like that. Yes.
Yeah, you're very close. So you can have the correct pronunciation, but really bad enunciation like this. Like I'm pronouncing words correctly right now. There's nothing wrong with the way I'm pronouncing things, but I'm not opening my mouth and I'm not really enunciating. So like sometimes I'm mumbling and sometimes I'm saying things really fast. So I can pronounce things absolutely correctly, but it's gonna not leave an impact at all. So in this case, we are actually talking about enunciation, but 3 Ps sounds better than 2 Ps and an E. And the third part of the voice is pacing. So when you're looking at being impactful, using your voice, the first thing you have to think of is that you're gonna have to play with your voice. It's like a piano, and you're used to hitting the same keys again and again. And what I want you to do is think of all those other keys that you're not hitting and use them to make an impact. So when I want to show you that I'm really excited about something, I'm going to be making my pitch a little bit higher, and I'm going to also increase the pace at which I speak a little bit, and I might be showing you a higher level of energy. But when I want to show you gravitas, when I want you to consider something that I'm saying in a more serious way, I will be dropping my pitch, potentially introducing more pauses for emphasis, and potentially slowing down the pace at which I speak. And that's the kind of experimentation that I would love for you guys to do. I do need to apologize. I do keep using the word guys. I am very used to it, and I understand it's non-inclusive. So that's a reminder for me. Apologies for that. When it comes to enunciation, there is a lot that you can do by simply opening your mouth more and sounding out your words. So I like likening this to think of your words as balloons. Now, they can either be deflated, where you're not really putting too much effort into them, or they can be like nice round balloons full of air. When I sound out my words and I fill each word with that sound. And you hear the difference immediately. I sound like I'm more convinced. I sound like I am more confident just because I'm enunciating better. This will make a huge difference. And the cherry on top is when you add emphasis. You should never forget about enunciation because it can make such a huge difference. See, I'm having fun. I'm playing with it. That's how I want you to think of this. So with that, going into pacing, and then we'll go into another exercise. In pacing, the first thing that I would like you to think about is that you are probably speaking faster than you think you are. I see this with my clients all the time. They tell me, Nausheen, I'm speaking at a regular pace. This is the speed at which I talk because everyone around me talks really fast, and this is how I talk. So then when I'm presenting, this is how I'm going to be talking. But if I talk like that all the time, especially when I'm presenting and I don't take pauses and I don't take a breath, then I am not going to be impactful. So the first thing that I do, the first piece of work that we do on the pacing is that I ask them to slow down. And I get the inevitable question, Nausheen, if I slow down, I am going to be boring. No one wants to hear someone who's slow and monotonous, and people don't have time. People have busy lives. This is all true. Slowing down is the first step. Recognizing that you might be speaking too fast, slowing down to gain control over the pace at which you speak. And then the third step is to add intentional variation in your pacing so that you can add that pause, so that you can go a little bit faster when you know it can be impactful, or you can slow down and get people anticipating the next word that you're saying. I also want to point out that a lot of people confuse energy with pace. They think that I cannot be energetic and passionate unless I'm speaking fast, but that is not true. You can convey a lot of energy with a controlled pace, and that's what I want you to think about. And great questions. Let's get to that when we do the Q&A, which I will definitely leave time for. So going straight into another exercise, I would love another volunteer, another brave volunteer who would be willing to do a voice exercise, emphasizing and focusing on our pitch, our enunciation, and pacing and pauses. Awesome, Mary. Great. So Mary, you can unmute yourself, and we will do this exercise where I would love for you to read the lines that are on the next slide. First, in a regular, serious, neutral tone. And then I would like you to play with your pitch, your emphasis, and your pauses to make it funny or amusing. Are you up for it?
Yes.
Great. So let's go. You can start with the neutral reading first.
So I'll be speaking to you using language because I can. This is one of these magical abilities that we humans have. We can transmit early complicated thoughts into one another. So what I am doing right now, I'm making sounds with my mouth as I'm exhaling. I'm making tones and hisses and puffs. Those are creating air vibrations in the air. Those air vibrations are traveling to you. They're hitting your eardrums, and then your brain takes those. This is not grammatically correct, but then your brain takes those vibrations from your ears and transforms them into thoughts. I hope.
Thanks for pointing that out. This is actually a transcript from a TED Talk.
Sorry, I'm like,
So
I edited.
I didn't.
it.
Yeah, I realized there's an off that's missing, and that might be either a typo or this person forgot to say off. But great. So that was for you to get used to that, to
Okay.
understand what the text was about. And now I'd like you to do a little bit of that play that we talked about. Introduce some pauses, play with your pitch, play with the pace at which you're speaking, and just try it out, just experiment.
Okay. So I'll be speaking to you today using language. Hey, because I can. This is one of these magical abilities that humans have. We can transmit really complicated thoughts to one another. So what I'm doing right now is I'm making sounds with my mouth. I'm exhaling. I'm making tones and hisses and puffs, and those are creating air vibrations in the air. Those vibrations are traveling to you. They're hitting your eardrums, and then your brain takes those vibrations from your eardrums and they transform them into thoughts. Hey, I hope.
Great, fantastic. How was that? Was that complicated? Was that really easy?
It was easier because I had already read it once.
And do you feel like this might be possible for you to do the next time that you're going into a meeting or a presentation?
Yeah. I have a big presentation on Monday, so we're definitely going to use it.
Great. That was great. When all of you were listening to Mary, what did you see? What did you observe her doing with her voice? What was she doing differently versus the time that she read it in a neutral tone, for example? What were some of the things that you noticed her doing? Inflections, enunciating more, pausing, great. Anything else that you noticed? Were you just entertained and listening? I was. It sounded more real, casual, personable. What do you make of that? That you sounded more real when you were making an effort to perform a little bit. Is that strange?
No, I don't think it's strange. I just think the thing is it makes it more interesting so people stay engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. This is part of what I was talking about earlier when I said that we can be very monotonous in real life. So we have to intentionally bring back some of that inflection and expressions and emphasis to actually sound natural. So there is a little bit of dichotomy there, but it makes sense because we don't think about being expressive when we're just going about our daily lives. So it's great if you're actually seeing people say you added in more personality, you were more authentic, and you seem to enjoy yourself more when you were paying a little bit more attention to the tonality, to the pauses, the emphasis. Great. Thank you. Love that.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Mary. Going into the next part of the framework, energy. So this is where I see a lot of experienced speakers just fall apart, just ignore this. Because when you're going into a meeting and you are a focal person, the audience will either rise to your energy level, as I see all of you doing right now, which I love, or they will sink to your energy level and probably even lower. So you are the energy ceiling or the floor, and being responsible for that is the first step towards making sure that everyone's there, they're present, they're listening, and that hopefully they take action afterwards, which is what you want. So intentionality is the word of the moment, the word of the hour. It's about being intentional with your energy as well. So you remember the warm-up stuff that we did in the beginning, it was to get you into that higher energy zone, and a controlled one, not uncontrollable energy that you don't know what to do with. And now that you are in the presentation, it's your job to keep the energy going. both for yourself and for the audience. So checking in with the audience every 5 or 6 slides. Sounds like a lot, but your audience will thank you. Your audience will feel like you're talking to them and not at them. And what do you do when you notice low energy? That inevitably happens in every boring presentation where people are like, why am I here? How much longer till this ends? Can I just check my email on the side without people noticing? Then it's your job to get the energy back in the room if you want to be an impactful speaker. This can be, especially if it's in person, but even on Zoom, it can be in the form of a physical exercise. Could be simply just asking people, okay, I think we've all had a long day. It's after lunch. Let's just get up and do a few jumping jacks or just bounce in place. It can be making a joke, intentionally asking a question, and actually waiting for the audience's response. Or it could be checking in with them. Maybe what you're saying is so dense that they're lost and they've tuned you out. Or maybe what you're saying is so incredibly dumbed down that they feel like they're being talked down to. Either way, they're not engaged because of the content of your presentation. And you are going to miss out on that clue. You're not going to be able to read the room unless you ask them, you check in with them. And when you do ask them, make sure that you make it very easy for them to participate. They don't want to make an effort, but they still want to feel like they're being included. And I probably don't need to tell you this, but of course, jokes can be a great icebreaker, but it's a place where you tread with caution because humor can be misconstrued. Different cultures have different ways of understanding and expressing humor, but it absolutely works. I'm going to skip this demo in the interest of time because I do want to talk to you about body language. And if you remember, body language was one of those things that are fairly easy to get right. You just need to be mindful of a few things like eye contact. This is nothing new. We all know that we should have great eye contact, but somehow when we're on Zoom, especially when we're presenting, we forget. And I've observed this in in-person events as well. Some speakers are just not aware that they should be making eye contact with the entire space, the entire room, and not just looking at one section of the audience. They just forget they're in the zone. But that makes that one section of the audience feel weird, and the rest of the people feel left out. Using gestures, again, nothing new, no rocket science here, but you'd be surprised to hear how many people have their Zoom cameras so close that they don't leave room to actually show their hands. And studies show that if you show your hands within the first 5 to 10 seconds of an interaction on Zoom or on camera, you are actually establishing more trust. And mathematically, it also makes sense because you are using more real estate. You're giving people more of you to see. You're showing them, I have nothing to hide. So with body language, as with anything else, it is a delicate dance. You can overdo it. You don't want to be this person. I was this person when I wasn't really very intentional about the way I was using my hands. You don't want to be shifting and swaying or stepping uncontrollably when you're on stage or when you're presenting in a boardroom. You want to be grounded. And this applies even when you're on Zoom. If you're swinging in your chair, it doesn't really show people that you're very serious. It doesn't show that you're very confident. So being grounded is all about showing that you're very confident, you're literally very grounded, and then you animate the top half of your body. So it's not about showing low energy. In fact, you're showing controlled, varied energy. And then if you remember, we have been going through this framework of what to do before, what to do during, which is where the voice, energy, and body language come in, and then what to do after. And here it's really simple. What I would like you to do is, after that next presentation, that next big meeting, take 5 minutes and debrief with yourself. What did I do well? What could have gone better? And what is it that I am proud of achieving? I was nervous going in. They were going to ask me about all these tricky things that I wasn't entirely sure I could handle. But hey, it actually went all right. This is essential to keep building that inner confidence that we talked about. Hopefully it doesn't sound too woo-woo for you, because it really works, creating that fear feedback loop. It's like giving that negative voice in your head something to shut up about, because you're gathering this ammunition and saying, actually, I've done this before and I handled that well, and I did manage that. So I can do it next time, no problem. So there, I'm going to pause. This is a QR code that you can scan if you like to get access to more stuff. There is a free course in there that you can take that goes into even more detail on the voice, energy, body language framework. And with that, I would love to use the last 7 minutes for Q&A. And I know there were some questions already in the chat, but whoever asked something, and if I wasn't able to respond, please feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Nausheen, before we get started on the group questions, there's so much that you said that is relevant to like online job interviews, right? It's really, you know, how do you pace yourself? How do you present? How do you speak? How do you carry yourself in a virtual setting? And those are really great thoughts, you know, but I'm curious that sometimes the mindset shift in a job interview is different, because, you know, you're thinking in terms of, I want the job, not I want to speak to my audience and convey my message. You're thinking, I want the job. So how can you shift that inner dialogue?
So this is great that you're talking about the inner dialogue, because that is where the presentation started as well. And it is something that takes time. What is important is understanding what is it that will give the positive side of that dialogue ammunition. And that's how I like thinking about it. So one of my friends came up with this framework of having 2 different voices in his head, and he actually named them Ralph and Ruth. And he said that Ralph is the negative guy, so he always comes up with, oh, you're not going to be able to do that. Oh, you're going to bomb. And Ruth is the positive voice that says, no, you can. I think you can manage. I think we're going to be okay. And he married them. So wherever Ralph goes, Ruth goes along. And that is the kind of positive self-talk that you can absolutely cultivate, because that negative voice may not go away. You're not going to show up in that next interview or that next presentation just completely devoid of nerves and 1000% confident and not feeling anxious at all. It's going to be there, but we don't spend enough time strengthening the positive self-talk, giving ammunition to ourselves to debate with ourselves that I can do this.
Okay, we
that
have
help?
4 minutes. Yes, we have 4 minutes. Rush, you had your hand up. Do you have a question?
All right. Yes, I just have something to add to that about feeling talked over. I had that experience earlier this week or last week on something where and especially kind of how to deal with it when something is transferred between individuals and not all the information is transferred over. So then it's basically like you feel like you're re-coaching or training the next person, if that makes sense, bringing them to speed, like how to handle that, because it can feel very frustrating.
Well, let me ask you this. When you're in the moment and you know that this might not be your job to retrain this person or to pass on information that they should have had, do you feel like this person still needs to have this information for them to get the job done?
I do, and yet it's a repeat of the same thing over again that I did with the last person who moved on from her job, and I was handling this, and I was like, all right, and I was trying to think, okay, try to let a take a breath and what is it, like, give the benefit of the doubt. Like there was some other thing where I thought, okay, maybe it's just the information. It's not the same person I spoke to, and the information was not transferred in full.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
very much like I was fuming, like, why do I need to say this again?
Yeah. So you hit the nail on the head that there could be a couple of problems, a couple of things that could have gone wrong. A, that information wasn't transmitted the way that you hoped it was, or B, perhaps that information wasn't clear in the first place. Maybe it wasn't clear to the earlier person. Maybe it just wasn't expressed the right way, even if it was expressed. But being a clear communicator is about taking responsibility, at least for me in my books. So
Yes.
the way that I would approach it is that I would think to myself, well, what is the job at hand? It's that this needs to be communicated. And if I am the person who's going to do it, I just got to do it. And if I'm upset, it's going to actually defeat the purpose, because
Of
then
course.
I might not be articulating well, or I might be intimidating this person. And then they'll be thinking about how, oh, Nausheen's upset. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? So
Okay.
it is, fortunately or otherwise, about being the bigger person. The more you can do that, the more you train yourself to not be upset. And then, of course, if this is a systemic problem in an organization, then of course you have a communication problem. If this is happening consistently in your team, for example, then there is a deeper issue that you would need to address.
Yes. How
Hope
can we
that
connect
helps.
with you if we don't have the QR code?
We'll send the information out, Russ.
All right, no
We
problem.
are out
Yeah.
of time, everyone. Nausheen, thank you so much for coming to us, and we hope to have you again. We hope that you'll grace us with your presence again. And thank you for the fun vibe and the great tips. And we'll send out the recording with your contact information and anything else that we have on you, and connect with her on LinkedIn. I'm connected to her on LinkedIn, and thank you, everyone. And we will see you in, I think it's 2 weeks, right, Tina? All right. Thank you.
Great.
Happy Friday.
Thank
Happy
you.
first day of
Bye,
fall.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.